I think XRP is about to make an absolutely massive move. But I've already told you many times that it is one of my favorite coins, my biggest crypto holding by far. And I think that as it currently stands, we are gearing up for a pretty beautiful move in the XRP chart. Things may currently be looking quite negative, but the moment we see a breakout, we do expect it to be pretty severe. And I also asked my analyst to give his thoughts on the matter, and he said the following. He said that XRP has fallen significantly, but we're still quite confident that XRP will yield some very nice results for the near future, as the entire price action right now is looking like a very typical bullish correction before making another impulse up. Remember, our first target, real target for XRP is around the $4.60 mark. And even though we could still go lower, if you take a look at the circle and you can read what it says right here, there's two main takeaways. One is never panic, because we're in very, very good hands. And for the most part, if you're wondering what currently my lowest XRP is, like what I really think could realistically speaking happen, it's about 233. And that's for the most part also where I'm going to be going really, really crazy if it were to happen. But it always going to depend, I personally still think, on Bitcoin, which right now is very strong. And many don't seem to realize this, but currently the crypto market is in one of the strongest hype phases we've seen in a while. I mean, Aster and the whole BNB ecosystem boom, they're good, but I'm more interested in what this may lead us up to. And for that reason, what I'm doing in these times is I'm not panicking, I'm stacking that dip, and particularly, I'm thinking about the fact that all these massive institutions, they're still buying more coins. And when other companies start to realize how profitable this has all been, I think ETFs are going to really skyrocket to popularity. They're already the most popular thing out there, sure, but still on the whole growth curve wise, we're still pretty much at the start. Most institutions have not gotten involved with this yet. They don't want to be first. They don't want to be last either, though. It takes time, but we're getting there. I think stable coins are going to be run by every single company. Just now, Tether, valuation of something ridiculous. I think they got valued at $500 billion and they're raising another $20 billion. I did then realize, though, that these crypto companies are starting to not necessarily be called overvalued, but they're starting to become more valuable than very well respected traditional companies that have been around for decades. And I realized we're onto something, man. Anyway, what I've also been doing is I've been stacking multiple different bots. I got a lot of questions throughout the past few hours. One of them was, hey, when you open bots, why do you sometimes open two? Most of the time when I do that, it's because I open one with 3x and one with 5x. 9 out of 10 times, though, it's just to prove the fact that, hey, in 3 days, this bot was able to generate 10 or 11% worth of profit. If I now stack the 5K on top, like I did with most of my bots, then people can never see it was 10%, because then it would just be, let's say here, $70 or so, like something like that. But out of 5,000, it would not be as cool a percent as, $70 from 600. So you get my drift. That's why I sometimes split them up. If I was not recording, though, I just add them together. In this case, also, I had different ranges. As you can see, I changed from 333 to 633 for Aster. But I also want you guys to realize one thing. All these strategies which I've got running, here's my 40,000 XRP bot, or we have ourselves the, let's quickly see here, the almost 400 Solana bots somewhere. Here it's about $100,000 in Solana bots, or the main XRP bot, etc., etc. Funnily enough, I personally think these will do really, really well. And I mean, the results have spoken for themselves. 140 days plus about 51% here for XRP. I will say one thing. In the near future here, I do realize that it doesn't really matter what strategy you've got as long as you're just stacking freaking coins. I think specifically XRP is in a really, really good spot. Solana is in a really, really good spot. And for those, that's why now, if I look at I think about $800,000 worth of bots right here, times 5 on average. So, or I should say times 4 a bit on average. So let's say $2.5 million worth of bots we've got running. It's by far heavily skewed towards XRP. If I look at my Bybit trades, if I look at every single one of these accounts, here's for example the Bybit account, it's always for some reason primarily XRP. In this case, ETH is actually up, no, slightly less even still. Or here we have Blowfin, for example. We can still see XRP almost always takes the cake. I'm just drawn to it, but it's also partially just because of these freaking charts. XRP just looks so juicy from almost any angle, and it still feels as if the moment it's going to pop, it's going to be such a crazy pop. Again, just like what we saw all the way back in this November period, a little while back, like this whole period here. I feel like we're starting to forget that every single time when XRP kind of calms down, the rally is quite unexpected. look back at the price action we saw in the lead up to the massive move. You can't really say that this looked all too positive and all of a sudden it popped and just went absolutely crazy. I will say that for Bitcoin, as it currently stands, not really that much, this is again coming from the analyst, not really that much has changed ever since the bearish drop we saw just a few days ago, as we're still testing support zone, still testing 200 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. And as of this point, we expect it to be ranging until we have any sort of clear breakout from the range in which we're currently in. Basically, if we take a look at XRP or ETH, there is some slight potential for some more downside on the short term. But the thing is, very healthy bearish, and what some people like to call bearish cycle. It's cyclical on the short term. Longer term, obviously, we're in a very big and obvious bull market. Sometimes on the short term, you can have yourself some bearish momentum. But I'd say from almost any angle, we're still in a completely ridiculously bullish setup, even though on the short term things can get slightly lower. Anyway, for ETH, kind of the same story. Nothing really special happening after the bearish move from recently. Basically just lingering very close to local support, 8-hour 200 EMA. And we're basically expecting to range for now for the next few hours, perhaps next few days. This is the 8-hour chart. We're basically waiting for some clear result, or I guess clear direction, let's call it. And then over on the 2-day time frame, what is a little bit more interesting is that ETH has not really had itself a proper pullback. And this is basically the scenario, the more bearish scenario we've been posting for a while. And the reason we like to still post an ETH bearish scenario, even though for the most part, almost every coin has been bullish, is because ETH went on such an astronomical rally. And this is what's being seen in the charts right now, that ETH perhaps might actually underperform to some other coins. And again, I like to kind of point this out, that for almost any angle, XRP right now looks really, really juicy, and ETH doesn't necessarily. And that's kind of funny to me. Anyway, analyst current bias is slight downturn before upwards, but the idea in mind still that end of the year, or let's say end of the next few months, let's call it end of the year, will probably be up by a ton. But on the short term, we'd prefer to see ETH go more towards about 3,900 or so to get some massive buys in for the rest of the cycle, I guess the rest of the run. Remember, however, fundamentally, nothing has really changed over the past couple of weeks. Even though a lot of coins are trading significantly lower than they were just now. Reminder that 2 Solana digital asset treasuries have yet to hit the open market to purchase SOL. I want you to just remember that whatever this hype was a few weeks ago of a Dogecoin ETF, XRP ETF, all these Solana DATs, digital asset treasuries, fundamentally nothing's changed. The market sentiments have changed. Partially, some of the Solana has already been acquired. But I'm going to tell you right now that the narrative has changed a little bit from being the main coins in position, so Sol, Chainlink, XRP, Doge, that were all really hyped up last week. Not the most. I mean, XRP was not in the limelight, but sure. To now being Aster, Aster's betas like 𝗕𝗓𝗄, the Easy Labs portfolio. This also will pass. You have to realize that most likely they will still pass being at an even higher valuation than right now, which is why I bought into some of them, right? I will also let y'all know that this also is going to transition into the next phase. And the most important thing you can do is not forget what made a specific coin popular at a certain time. First of all, because you can learn what makes another coin popular another time. But also mostly because very often the run continues after some sort of break. And people need to remember which coins are worth buying the dip off of and which not. And again, that mostly for me looks back at previous runs and previous performance. Obviously, previous performance is not necessarily indicative of future performance. They're not necessarily correlated to one another. Or maybe I should say causational. Just because it did well in the past doesn't necessarily mean it's going to again. And there might not be any resemblance at all. It could very well be so. Very often it is the case. And so we go out from the idea that it will. I sometimes want to remind you all of this tweet again from a while back, from 2023 it is. You know, this guy was buying, I guess, millions of dollars worth of Solana at the bottom, $17 here, probably even at, I don't know, whatever, lowest price it went to. He says, friends, don't let me take all your Solana, please. Buying just freaking boatloads. Like, he has to freaking start carrying it like this. And it made me realize, this shows so much conviction. People say, oh, but it's so easy because Sol was so cheap. And people have said this many times when XRP was at 40 cents. I've been making videos on XRP for 8 years, right? I've seen XRP at 10 cents as well when I was making videos for years already, I believe. So after seeing it at $3, for example, I think it went to 11 cents or 10 cents after. Then it went up again to something, maybe, I don't know, $1 something like that. Then it went down to 17 cents after the 2020, lawsuit situation came in. I think March 2020 went to 11 cents. And then After the lawsuit, I think it went to like 17 cents, something like that. But I could be wrong on those exact dates. What an interesting point was is that most people said, no, I can't recover. So actually, a lot of people were selling the bottom. Right now, we've not seen a bottom, like a proper bottom, in a while. It's not really gone that low. Or even if we did, it was not staying at those levels for a long time. So I really consider the prices that we're in right now, like the bottom, if we start looking back at these times 3 months in the future. And from that angle, I really still think if you're unsure what to do, as long as your liquidation price is not that close, or you're a person that goes more along with these bot strategies that I've talked about a lot of the times here, it's not that hard to really properly succeed over an entire run. And many will say that, oh, this is not responsible. The drawdowns that we're seeing, no, this is bad. Or on the short term, you may not love it. Just like this 10K to a million challenge, you're not loving it, right? But I still keep referring to the success cases of, well, if you play your cards right, this cashed out stuff just makes up for all the uncomfortability in the meantime. And it's not really too much about timing. It's more about time in, just like how I opened, if I can find one of them here, this H-bar bot here. You can see I opened it at basically the exact same price that it is at right now, but still we're up a few percent. Now this one, it's not really high percentages because H-bar has been boring. I don't want to bore you with bots too much today. Just want to get my thoughts there out to you. What I think is going to happen in the near future to the crypto market, I think that the moment this market starts going absolutely nuts, most people won't be ready for it because they keep thinking that this is not the time. And in response to that, I'm going to say treat every single day here as if it's the last day you get to buy cheap. Why? If the market does decide to fall down, how long can it really be? And how far can it really go? And if you really start thinking about it from that angle, sure, you might have some uncomfortable days when the market does dip down or you went a bit too crazy and now you're sweating because, well, you could have bought cheaper or your portfolio is down. But from any risk reward, I don't know if it ever could be that you're going to regret this in a few months or years from now. On the short term, a few days, a few weeks, yes. Even if I've had the same. And the same thing applies. You know that most of these bots that I've opened, I have to go back to them just to prove my point. You know, most of them, 90% of them, are always at a loss the moment I start them. Why? Because you almost never time it perfectly, and even if you do, you time it really, really nicely. You know, and this one, for example, was at a loss at the start, went for a good run for profit, and then just down, down, down because, well, there was no RSS3 hype. You know, that it tends to be the case, and these ones are bad because no volatility. You can see like 23% APY. So those are often case studies where you can kind of close them off. If the APY, if the volatility is not really there, you can see the difference, right? With Wild, for example, being at 260% a year. This is more worth looking into or keeping around, but hey, that's relative. It's also partially, by the way, because of the range that I inserted. The market was really, really doing quite well. You insert too tight of a range, it's buying too much already too soon. With potentially too high a target, you make a lot less on the APY. But this could quickly change, by the way, if the market does pump that one coin for just a little bit. Regardless, all the earlier positions I've opened up, it's really hard for them to get into a really bad spot because not only of where I opened them up, you know, that was kind of a lucky part, but mostly because of how much time I've had in them. And I always look back thinking, yeah, if they can grind out a lot of time, they can really just make money off of the volatility. And almost 9 out of 10 times, I think, maybe actually 99 out of 100, it's better to have a position like this, especially if the leverage is really, really low, than just keeping the coins themselves, because the coins themselves will go down in value as well, but it might as well make money on the volatility if it does move. And again, this is coming from the perspective that I have almost everything with some slight leverage. That does not mean necessarily portfolio leverage, but it just means that I almost always open leveraged positions because I like to take more advantage of opportunities. And the difference there between portfolio, let's call it margin or leverage, or just leverage on any position is, let's say you have $1 million. And you're trying to trade with 1.1 million, you don't have a 10% extra risk. That effectively means, though, that you're almost always fine because the market almost never goes down 90-something% where you're going to lose your whole collateral, right? If we're having $1 million, okay, let's do a more realistic number for most people, $10,000. But we're trading as if we've got 20,000. Now, if the market comes down 50%, we're in a bad spot. But that just means on your whole portfolio. If I have $20,000, my average trade size is $1,000 because that's usually what I trade with as an example. And now I do 10 times leverage. If I had a $20,000 portfolio, I trade 1,000 and I use 10x leverage, it's 10,000. But that's half of my portfolio stack to deal with. I can most likely make it balance in some way, shape, or form, where if the market does turn bad, I add a bit more as collateral, for example, 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘, so I don't really get wrecked, because it tends to be the market doesn't correct that much where I need a full amount, the full 10K. I might only need 1.1K, so just slightly more than the position was worth. But that's always a thing, where a lot of people that I know, as I said in the previous video, what they do is they deposit their Bitcoin, whatever coin onto, like, let's say 𝗂𝗓, they borrow against it a little bit. Maybe they borrow 10%, 20%, 30% on top, so to speak. And what you then effectively do is you leverage out your whole portfolio with your collateral hopefully going up in value as well. There's a lot of options there. The only thing I'm saying is I don't necessarily am a big fan. I'm not necessarily a big fan of going way above your limit. And that's only if you cannot handle stress or you want to be a person that's just leaving it be. That's why I always say the bots are nice, right? Volatility wise. If you can, you're a person that likes more stress, just take a look, for example, at the numbers that we're pulling here. If you consider that it's, let's say, $650,000, something like that, it is effectively times 5 because of leverage. It is an effective $3 million I've got locked in up in here. Like, it's a lot of money, sure, but on the opposite side, and this is how I always think, in the grand scheme of things, if you want to make bigger money, it's not, oh, by the way, Aster is going astronomical. Damn, that's nice. I love Aster, man. You see, now I can think, oh, if only I opened more than a 5K position, because I wanted to open 10, right? But I only opened 5 because what if the market came down hard? And then now we're seeing, oh, I should have actually opened more. Don't FOMO, right? I decided to do it. I could have gotten lucky, could have gotten unlucky. I just wanted to get a position in, make money off the volatility, and react rather than, make the decision beforehand. And I was smart. Even though I can definitely add the 5,000 and it's not that much in the grand scheme of things, I prefer in this case to keep peace of mind over adding everything all at once, which in this case would have been a very, very good idea. But the goal for me is just to stack as many different altcoin bots, but specifically just more in the ones that I really, really love. And actually what I'm going to do soon as well, probably on a video very soon, I'm going to compound a lot of the bigger ones because I'm thinking, man, it's just kind of wasted leaving it in there for itself to do nothing. Like the XRP bots and stuff here, I'm thinking about it, like maybe just let's compound whatever it's made. Let's go a bit crazier because the market's about to pop off. I'm looking at XRP like a freaking juicy snack, man. I'm looking at this thinking, man, the moment this breaks, ooh, it's going to be crazy, especially once we cross 312 again, right? We want to take out that previous top. Once we do, oh, I get excited. You know what? I might also leave a link to Aster down below because I think they might also be doing, oh, I see now, 4% of the supply they're going to be giving away to people who trade on there. If you're a trader, you might want to check it out. I will leave a link to it down below as well. We might be able to form a team. Who knows? Because I trade on here now myself as well. I might even refer myself here, actually. Nah, I was going to say to somebody else, but I'll make my own team. Could be actually quite nice. I'll leave a link to that down below. I'm going to make it right now. Ooh, we got until October 5th. Okay, might be interesting. Anyway, links to normal stuff is down below. I'll also leave an Aster link down there if you're interested, in case. I'm ready for the market, man. I'm ready for everything. What's going to bring me. Woo! Hope you guys are ready as well.